Yes, indeed, my friends. We are at the National Museum of Health and Medicine. It's your old pal, Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said well. I'm doing well. We're just outside of Baltimore, Maryland, and this place has some very interesting things that when I read about what was here, I said, we gotta go check this out. Hope you enjoy this. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins right now.
So here we have a skeleton, actual skeleton. It's been disjointed so you can see how the joints put all the parts of the body together. We might actually be seeing some famous parts of famous bodies. This is showing the evolution of child development from down here being just 4 months old, going up to 8 months old here in the middle, and then all the way up to 3 years old and 5 years old on the end. There's a service vest for an army dog. So these are three-dimensional stereolithographic models of skulls that were wounded in service. It says the model shows that how the section of skull was removed to allow for swelling, and a prosthetic implant was crafted to replace the missing bone. It said the bullet struck the edge of the patient's helmet just above the left ear, punched through the layers of Kevlar, split the top of the ear, and drove into the skull, shooting fragments of bullets and bone into the brain. Wow. That is a brain with a prosthetic implant. Here are more skulls that have used that ancient technique of cutting out part of the skull to relieve the pressure. Yikes. And then that was from the Civil War. So surgeons drilled a circular hole into the skull right there as well to relieve pressure, using those kinds of instruments. Looks like a cork remover, doesn't it, for a wine bottle? That is an actual brain. It says ruptured skull with epidural hemorrhage in it. Yikes. And then here, extensive lacerations with subchordal hemorrhage. It says it happens when an impact or violent motion brings the head to a sudden stop, causing the brain to slam into the skull. And then both of these are showing sharp force trauma. You can see over here, the dark is the trauma. And then over here, it was above the right lobe, up at top. Now that one looks a little different because it says the brain was penetrated by an ice pick. And there they're identifying the cerebral hemorrhage. Now all three of these were gunshot wounds. You can definitely see where the gunshot went through. But then this one, you can actually see the track of it down this end. I'm kind of shocked by how many brains they have in here. I believe they have something related to Abraham Lincoln that we're gonna see. Here you can definitely see where the bullet went into the one on the left. And this one over here on the right says that was blunt force from an umbrella perforating the skull and brain. See that little hole in there? Wow. And this one's showing a major epidural hemorrhage after being in a car accident. And here they're talking about brain trauma from football injuries. This is multiple concussions experienced by athletes are linked to chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is known as CTE, Individuals with CT may show symptoms of dementia, aggression, confusion, and depression, which may occur within months of the injury or decades later. That is a model of the inside of the brain. Holy cow, I've never seen this before. A brain and a spinal cord, all still attached from 1935. The information from the brain, of course, gets sent through and gives all the other limbs and everything the directions of what to do. That's crazy for me to see. Here's a model showing inside the heart. And then this is identifying all the organs. And that is the head and neck. And the hands. So this giant machine was an artificial kidney. Arterial blood from the patient is passed along the cellophane tubing wrapped around the drum, rotating through a 100-liter chemical bath, cleansing the blood. 1 or 2 patients could be treated each day with 1 artificial kidney. And here we have prosthetic limbs, prosthetic legs. That one is from 1866. That does not look like that would have been comfortable. And then this one from 1945, the whole leg. And this one from 1960, from the knee down. And they also have shoulder prosthetics, joints, those are shoulders, and then prosthetic hand. These are Civil War eyeglasses. And that's an artificial leg from 1870. All sorts of prosthetic legs here. This one in the center is from 1850, and this one down here is from 1866. You're close. There you go. 1866. Gildea's artificial forearm. That's a wounded femur. So one of the Dossets saw me looking at this, and I was kind of like in awe because it's all one man's body parts, his bones. And she was telling me that he had had several amputations, which was very rare. Usually you didn't have multiple amputations that live, but he had had cranial shot. He had had an infection to his elbow joint brought on by being shot through this bone. And then you can see a shot in his pelvis here as well. They said he, even with all this, he ended up dying of an opiate overdose. He was prescribed opiates for all the pain and everything, and this just shows all the deterioration. His name was Private Julius Fabry. But yeah, she said he was like one of the rare ones to live after all these amputations and the infections and everything, and it wasn't even any of that that ended up taking him out. Whoa! Conjoined twins? Where's Scott Michaels when you need him? This is showing a foot that was infected with smallpox. So this is the body of a man named Peter Clucky. 2 months after he enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1904 at the age of 22, he was diagnosed with chronic rheumatism, affecting many of his joints. Despite the treatments, his condition worsened till every joint in his body became fused. Before he died at the age of 43, he arranged to donate his body to this museum. There you can see it, especially in the knees. It happens a lot in the joints. This is a human leg with elephantitis. Oh no, they do have the information about Lincoln and the assassination, and all of the items are gone. None of them that were normally on display are on display, so I guess I'll have to come back. Because here you can see it says, right there normally is the bullet that killed him. And then down here would have been bone fragments from the president's skull taken during autopsy. Right here would have been the bone fragments from President Lincoln's skull found in the autopsy kit. And then they had the sleeves, the cuff sleeves from Dr. Edward Curtis stained blood. Blood stains from Abraham Lincoln. He was the one that did the autopsy. And then over here, they're supposed to normally have locks of President Abraham Lincoln's hair from the head wound. And right here, they were supposed to have the probe used to locate the bullet in his body. Oh man. There it even shows where it entered the brain, the bullet. John Wilkes Booth. Wow, I was really excited to come and see this. I know that's a weird word to say, but just fascinated to see it, and I can't believe all those things that we really were looking forward to are not here right now. So I went ahead and asked where the pieces of Lincoln are, and they said they're actually here. They're actually back here in storage because there's something wrong with the display case. So it was a security issue, and that they had thought about doing a temporary display, but because of security also, they didn't feel comfortable doing that. So all those pieces are still in the building, and I'll show you photos from my phone of what they look like, but unfortunately, yeah, we won't get to see them today. So since we can't see them in person, this is the medical kit that Dr. Edward Curtis was using to do Lincoln's autopsy and work on Abraham Lincoln. This is actually the hair, pictures of the locks of hair from his head, from the head wound. So it says here that these are the bone fragments from President Abraham Lincoln's skull found in Dr. Edward Curtis' autopsy kit. So he must have kept some for maybe for display or, for medical history. And this is the actual piece of bone that was taken from Lincoln's skull at the time of the autopsy. And those are the cuffs, the bloody cuffs from working on Lincoln during the autopsy. Those are the doctor's shirt cuffs. And that is the actual bullet that hit Abraham Lincoln and killed Abraham Lincoln. They dislodged this from his skull. But this was very fascinating. This was a guy who was wounded in the war. You can see a photo of him right there, and he's showing his wound. He was actually shot, and the bullet went right through his stomach right there. So he ended up having a major abscess that he was constantly having fluid drain out of it and everything. So they developed a system, believe it or not, of running like a piece of string, like a piece of rope, and using it like dental floss, and he would run that back and forth to clean out the wound, I guess. And you can see they have part of his pelvis here, and you can see where the bullet would have went through and how the infection's building up around it. They said when they did a CT scan of this here at the museum, they found that there were fragments of bullets in there, so that would have been what caused the infection. They would have never been able to know that back then, but that's why he ended up having so many problems. Lots of Civil War gunshot wounds. Here they're basically showing a hanging of Captain Henry Weirs. Said at the end of the war, Captain Weirs was arrested and convicted of war crimes committed while commanding the Confederate prison at Camp Sumter. Almost 13,000 of the 45,000 Union soldiers held at camp died in captivity. Although accused of repeated acts of brutality, Weirs claimed that a debilitating injury to his right arm proved his innocence. He was executed. That's weird. Why is that? It says, claimed that a debilitating injury to his right arm proved his innocence. They didn't say what he was claiming he was innocent of, really. He was executed on November 10th, 1865, and an autopsy revealed that Weirs had full use of his right arm. There's his arm, the radius and ulna, and then right up here is pieces of his vertebrae, first and second vertebrae. That was also a cranial gunshot wound right there. So this is a photo of a man named Daniel Sickles who was involved in the Civil War. He was at the Battle of Gettysburg. General Daniel Sickles was the commander of the Union Third Army, and he was struck by a 12-pound cannonball in the lower right leg. He ended up having to have the leg amputated, and they saved and preserved the leg. And he would come visit in the museum that it is, well, it was a different building, but this museum, there's his leg. He was supposedly one of the great hopes for the Battle of Gettysburg, but he made a couple of wrong command moves. When he was in a secure location, he decided to move and open them up to a lot of battle. Kind of crazy to go, hey, let's go visit my leg in a museum. This is a Civil War breastplate, kind of the early days of a bulletproof vest. And it's definitely taken a shot, you can see right there. This case is showing all kinds of different bullets that have been removed. Bullets and shrapnel removed from bodies. That is a urinal, a hospital urinal from back in the day. This is an artificial leech blooding kit to bleed you. This is Dr. Mary Walker. She was the first and only woman to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. Initially rejected by the Union Army, she volunteered in field hospitals and became the first woman to receive a contract as an assistant surgeon in October of 1864. They have the kit that she used to work on wounded soldiers here. Here they have an oxygen inhaler. It was used in case you were hit with poison gas. They would use this. Here we have early forms of the ambulance. And a wheelchair stretcher. And then this is showing the inside of a hospital train car. You can see all the people in there sleeping in the cots. And this is a model of one of the Army hospital ships. Now if you look at this on the left, that was a microscope made by Christopher Koch in London of 1665, and it's significant because it belonged to Robert Hooke of the Royal Society, the first person to describe cells. Well, my friends, if you enjoyed today's video, please hit that thumbs up and hit the bell for future notifications. I want to thank James Peoples, Paula Santiago, Tommy Collins, Robin Kennedy, Diane Fessler, Angie at Straight Razor Barbershop, Dixie, David Fernandez, and Nerys Gudis for becoming my newest Patreons.
Well, that was definitely a very interesting place. I definitely learned a lot and saw a lot of stuff that I've never seen before. But I'm bummed that we didn't get to actually see the items of Abraham Lincoln's in person. I mean, I know it's kind of ghoulish maybe, but it's one of the most interesting and sad assassination deaths of, you know, American history. So I was kind of interested in seeing that. So we'll come back again and see this when they have it on display and we can see it for real. Thank you all for watching. We're going to call it a day from Bethesda, Maryland. Have a great night and goodbye.